hi everyone. We're here again with another series of talks with the Bosphorus Summit. And today we have a very special person. We have Professor Dr. Emre Alkin, who is an amazing person apart from being a very dear friend. Professor Emre Alkin is actually an important, renowned economist. He is a columnist, a writer, a non-executive board member in multinational companies, a TV personality, digital activist, and a very good guitar player, loved by many people. Emre, it is so nice to have you here. We have so much to hear from you. You have so much knowledge and so much insight that I think our viewers will benefit from. First, I want to start by, obviously, because we're going through the whole coronavirus and the COVID-19 situation, and there has been a lockdown. Some countries are already opening up. In Turkey, we're going through an opening up as well gradually. First, I want to start by asking you personally, how did you handle the whole coronavirus situation, and what were the lessons that you took from it?
Well, I did a lot of self-criticism upon me, especially. We have two kinds of self-criticism. First of all, the self-confrontation, and second, confrontation with other people, which means the family members and all the people, because nobody can say that before the coronaviruses, the world was a bed of roses. No, it wasn't like that. There were a lot of problems. Even everybody was complaining where we are going, where we are running. So what are we doing? 1.5 hours to home to job and job back to home, the same hours or 2 hours more, heavy traffic, taking the planes, 7 times a week and like that. So it was we were in a hurry. Well, we don't know why. So most of the people were indebted like hell, and most of the companies will actually forget about making profit, but they were just financing themselves with a heavy burden of debt and stuff. So we were always asking questions before the coronavirus as well, the same questions that we did. But actually, we didn't put very much attention to the family members or who we are and who are they. So we started to recognize people with the coronavirus process.
Interesting that as an economist, you're starting from a very personal and very humane point of view. It is interesting that you kind of seem like you've made a lot of inner questioning and,
I did.
questioning of relationships. Definitely. I hear this from a lot of people, actually, which is quite interesting. And a lot of people from the business world as well. It seems like the relationships have become more intimate. Even in important business deals, it's become more sincere, and that is a very interesting. Do you think that is going to have an effect on economy, on how businesses are done? How do you see that?
Well, the human beings are very adaptive, which means to good to bad. We are doing this because we have nothing else to do. So we are doing the self-criticism. We are trying to fulfill our souls because we are at home and we are locked down, and we just meet with the family members, actually, just like we just meet the first day. So, for example, my 2 sons, I just discovered a lot from them. My friends, by talking on the phone, I just realized that I didn't put so much attention to their problems. Then I started to do. But whenever we just turn back to the reality, to the normal, most probably we will forget all about this. So this is all human. So that's a benefit. That's a benefit. For, I don't know, 2 months or 3 months of time, we just discovered ourselves, and discovery never fails, actually. Maybe it will have some residual on our souls, which means a good thing on our souls. But of course, when we get back to business, just like the normal days, we will forget all about these, the same mistakes, the same things and stuff. Maybe less, but the same.
So no lessons will be learned. Is that your take?
I cannot say that this is a revolutionary thing. This is an evolution, the self-fulfillment, and I mean the discovering yourself, discovering the world, discovering the people. It's an evolution. We cannot do this overnight, which means 3 months is not sufficient for this kind of discovery, but still good, and is better than nothing, I presume.
It is better than that. So what you're saying is priorities are changing. Can we see that?
Yeah,
Priorities are changing, like for everybody around the world. The people have had the chance to assess what was more important for them in their lives.
that's true. From the company point of view to the individual lives, we started to differ the desires and the needs.
Mm.
And there is a problem of the economy, actually. We just
Yes.
try to meet the sources with the endless desires, not
Yeah.
the needs.
Mm.
Because there's what is a desire, what is a need? Need is, there's something that we don't put too much attention on it because it's operational. Just
Yes.
like going to the toilet, taking a glass of water, and we don't put too much sentiment on it. But desires have sentiment. So
Good
that's
point.
why we always confusing the desires and the needs in the life. And sometimes desires get more priority than the needs. Then we make a lot of noise and the problem in our life. So we are just spending the money for nothing because the desires are there. We try to meet the desires, but actually we have to meet the needs instead of the desires. So that is the states are doing the same mistake, companies are doing the same mistake, individuals and the families are doing the same mistake.
So, but do you think this has taught us a little bit to focus on the needs rather than the desires? Do you think there's an awakening in that way, or are we still going to be focused on the desires?
Well, the awakening is a sad thing, just like Fernando Pessoa says. There are
Really, it's a sad thing.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah, it's a
Okay,
sad
tell
thing
me more
because
about
you just discover what's happening in the world.
that. Okay.
And I say that, well, I made a mistake. That's sad, actually. For example, I'm 50 years old and I discovered my mistakes. So that's very sad. I said, oh, how had I done that? So, but just like Fernando Pessoa says, the Portuguese.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
Right? He says, there are many ships to sail in many harbors, but none of them brings you where life is less painful. So, you can go everywhere, but still the pain is there.
Yeah.
But awareness is sad. It brings you sad, just like the lemon in the tea. Okay, it's there, it's good, but it's, a bit sour. Okay, so what does it mean? Meet the reality or facing the reality is awakening and the awareness. But the awareness is sad. So that's why everybody says that ignorance is bliss. But actually, I don't want to be like that. But I'm on the sad side because I have the awareness and the awakening of many things. So that's sad, but good at the same time.
I think I will transform it into saying it is more maybe responsible. Like awareness brings you more responsibility. I wouldn't want to call it sadness. I would like to call it a little bit more, in terms of taking more responsibility of whatever you have or you don't have in your life, both as an individual, as a company, or as a country, being more responsible for whatever reality you're living, right? So can we say that? And to continue with that, how do you see companies adapting or readapting to this situation of taking more responsibility?
It's a very beautiful question. I have to say that you cannot learn to swim after you jumped in the sea. Okay. You have to learn it before.
Yes.
So that's why most of the companies have problems today, not because the coronaviruses, because they weren't ready for this kind of environment, which means the demand shock and the supply shock at the same time. It's 1 in a million we see it. So 100 years ago with the Spanish flu. And now everybody forget about it because nobody in our neighborhood knows the Spanish flu. It was 100 years before. Even Atatürk actually had this sickness, but nobody remembers because they are not in the memories or stuff. Now it's the first time after 100 years we are facing a huge demand shock and the supply shock generated by a sickness, which was a pandemic outbreak. That's why, first of all, what we have to do as a company, we have to resolve, which means resolve what we have done or what we have to do, which means take the inner circle and the outer circle of the company, which means the procurers, the customers, the employees, and everybody who takes the benefit from the company, and make them talk about this company, what this company means for them, and what are the mistakes we made along the way. This is resolving. Second step is resilience, which means if it's going to be a second wave, which is highly possible.
Yes,
so because we just faced it 100 years ago. The first wave was in the June, July, and the second wave was 8 times bigger in October and November and December. Yeah. So that's why we have to maintain a resilience. How we do this resilience? Of course, the cash flow and all the things, the procurement, how we can manage the supply chain management. All of this is the second step, which means we have to form a resilience. We have to deploy a resilience in the company. So the third thing is how we will return. So what is the day one? So one day it's going to finish. So we will turn back to the company. Are we going to do this with the same meter squares, with the same amount of people, with the same level of infrastructure, or with the same level of digitalism? I don't think so. So we have to decide how we will proceed right after this. Yeah.
Very, very, very good points, actually. First of all, I think you're saying that the old system of like the pyramid, the top-down management style, that is no longer going to serve us. That is evident that it's no longer going to serve us.
We don't have to work with the hierarchy anymore. It doesn't work.
Yes.
We have to work like an orchestra.
Good.
Which means the pianist and the violinist and all other people has to work in harmony.
Beautiful.
And the maestro of the orchestra doesn't have to be a boss. The boss is a silly thing in an orchestra. The maestro is a leader. And who is a leader? If you ask me, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, for example, who is a leader. Why is a leader? Because a leader takes everybody who works with him or her and evaluate the education, divide, and solve the biggest problem in a harmonic way. So this is the leadership. So you have to talk, but you have to listen as well. You have to lead and you have to listen. So there are times that you lead, but there are times you listen. So a leader has to differ these two aspects, listening and leading. So the fourth step, reimagination. So what's going to happen next?
Yes, what is going to happen next? Yes.
So the reimagination is, I'm so sure that 88% of the legislation and amendments of the sectors will change, which means state will decide, all the states in the world will decide to do the things in another way.
In what way do you suggest they should do?
More digitally or in a more accurate way, maybe put some reserves aside, just like a money, because if there will be a second wave or a third wave, everybody will put a reserve on the right-hand side, and if you look at the balance sheet, but also the social distancing, the hygienic things, and everything will be there on these amendments and the legislation. So we will take the best practices of the competitors as well. So most of the people doesn't like to look at the competitors. Why? Because they are so stubborn or they are so sure themselves. I say that, I don't want to learn from them. Actually, you have to learn. We all have to learn from the competitors, from the best practices. So what is going to happen with the amendments, or what is going to happen if there is another wave will hit us? So this is two main questions. So we have to reimagine with all the parts of the company, the outside, the inside, the inner circle, the outer circle, procurers, customers. We have to find out with which plan we will go, A or B. So this is corporate governance, actually.
Yes.
Managing and corporate governance is two different things. What is corporate governance? Corporate governance is decide to do the best thing. What I mean the best, decide to go on a plan. But managing is taking this plan and execute it appropriately. So this is two different things.
The point here, the difficulty here, I think that many are facing is how to create or how to come up with the right plan? Because
right
there
plan.
are so many uncertainties in the midst of such uncertainties. For instance, the second wave, many people, yes, say, we don't even know if it will happen or not. And what I hear from you is also, you speak as though you foresee that this whole virus or epidemic is going to be long lasting. It's not going to go away in a few months. It's going to have a continuation.
What I have to say is, first, if you want to make an accurate plan for the company, we have to admit that this is not economical. This has to be very philosophical, which means, first of all, the company has to be self-sufficient.
Important point.
That when you just become self-sufficient personally or corporately, then your first aim is not this. I want to be rich. I want to be the number one in the, no. You just compete with yourself. You just started to discover how to survive in A or B scenario. What are the outcome? So, and what are your reserves to face it? So how you do it with the good corporate governance, which means the board of directors and the professionals are two different things. The board of directors deciding, the plan, the scenario, but with what? With the data, of course, the accurate data. But if you don't have the accurate data, then you can make a good plan. You cannot make it.
Absolutely, yes.
Just like Stephen Hawking says, whether your computer is big or strong, it doesn't matter. If you put lousy data on it, you will have lousy results. So that's why the role of the professionals is taking the accurate data and give to the board of directors. Why they do that? Because all the critical decisions has to be made in objective criteria. The objectivity comes with the accurate data. So the professionals gives the data, and the board of members decide on a plan, and they just call the general manager and the professionals in the company and say that we decided to go on like that, and it's up to you to execute. And what you do, you just try to monitor the professionals whether they do good or bad. So that is the thing. But the hesitation is a killer. Fear is a killer. So you have to have a plan. And this has to be very, very accurate. Accurate means that firm, not,
so when you have a plan, you stick to it, basically. Make your plan and stick to it and continue with your plan.
That's what I'm talking.
Yeah,
that's what
with
I'm
the best
talking about.
accurate data you can have in hand.
No blurred detail, nothing at all. Everything is accurate. The budget is there. The time plan is there.
Feet on the ground. But yes, how about then? How about, let's look at it that now we're talking corporate. Like, how about in terms of employment and jobs, or unemployment, or freelancers? How do you see that? Because the corporate world might be changing as well. It feels like there will be more freelancers in the future than the whole system of bigger groups with a lot of employers.
Yeah, I remember that a couple of years ago, Statista made a press release about how the Americans will go freelancers into 2027.
Okay.
And the number of the freelancers will be more than the payroll people. I was shocking, actually.
That is interesting.
I remember right after this press release, California governor, he's still the governor, actually opposed the idea and tried to make some federal amendments against this, but actually it was so absurd. Now, actually, he admits it. So you cannot turn the tide.
It's unavoidable.
You cannot turn back the time. So it's irrevocable. So in Turkey as well, people go freelancer for two reasons. First of all, youngsters doesn't like to work in conventional companies anymore. What I mean by conventionals, the bosses are there and they just try to create the hierarchy, which means they are controlling the people, not the job, which is absurd to me, actually. Now the youngsters say that I want to work on the corporate companies. What I mean is corporate, everything is clean cut and set appropriately, or I go freelancer. And I really can. Most of the youngsters says that, listen, professor, I really want to open my, a shop. I want to be a shopkeeper rather than working in these conventional companies because they are not working appropriately, and they are not creating values anymore. By what I mean values, ethics, for example, justice, freedom, moral education, digital inclusion,
purpose-driven.
They just like to see us like a puppets, and we don't like it, and they're right. And secondly, you really can create more when you're on your own. So this pandemic outbreak really showed us that we don't need those square meters anymore. Those big buildings, those headquarters, or that much people, or those cars outside waiting for the professionals, or those heavy burdens of employee people like that. Really, we can do from the outside of the world, even in a cafe, in home, everywhere, in a park. So then everybody understood that they can really create value, a value added on their own. So why not? So you will see some people will lose the job. I'm sure about it. I'm talking about millions. But it doesn't mean that they will be jobless forever. Sooner or later, or hell or high water, most probably, they have to find another thing. We have to be self-sufficient, which means we have to be interdisciplinary. Just like I do.
That's a key word.
Just like I do. I know that if I will be jobless someday, inshallah not one day, but I can play a guitar.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, I can do it. Or I can write a novel. I don't know, it's not much, but I can hold my own. So everybody has to be interdisciplinary. We are not in a world that we are not living in a world that I know this job and I will do this forever. No, it's not going to work. I said the same thing 10 years ago. Nobody believed me. And I say, listen, guys, some of the people say that they just get the job and they will go on forever to the retirement. No, that's not the case anymore. So maybe the company will collapse, most probably. Do you remember Kodak? So Kodak, rest in peace. Okay, so it happens. So
it does happen.
But there are some companies.
Sectors sometimes disappear. Yeah.
There are some companies like Virgin or Nokia. They change the nature of the business. Try to survive. So what is the company's purpose? Is stick to the business forever? No. Try to survive. Try to adopt. The adaptation. Shaping yourself to the market. If one day, if you are strong enough, you are just shaping the market, but not now. First of all, you have to shape yourself to the market, for the market. Then you can shape the market. But you cannot go, every step in one second. So one step, the second step. So I just talk about 4 steps so far: resolving, resilience, returning. How can we return to the job, and reimagination of the future. And the 5th thing, the last thing, is reforming yourself. If you cannot reform yourself, you cannot adopt the future, because the future is unknown. Even 5 minutes after, we don't know, what's going to happen. Even Trump doesn't know. 5 minutes after, what's going to, he's going to tweet something, but he doesn't know even. So I don't even know. So in this world, we have to adapt ourselves to the discoveries, and to some happenings that we didn't think about it before. So that is the reality of the life.
Yeah. So it's about acquiring new talent. So people should acquire some new talent, acquire more knowledge, look into areas they haven't looked into before, discover new areas of interest for themselves, and be open-minded in general. Be open-minded.
Of course, there is a business blindness over there. So there's a guy who says that, I was the CFO of the company for 40 years. I say, gee, so he doesn't know anything else.
True.
Just being a CFO and nothing else. So that's a killer. Yes. I think he has to retire someday. He made a mistake. So you can be CFO of the company, and you can even be the CIO of the company as well. Why not? Why just stick to your business so much? because you
But
have
there are
fear
people
that,
who
yeah,
drop whatever they've been doing and open a
yeah,
cafe, and they're
that's it,
ultimately
that's it,
happier. So
that's it.
we have to be a little bit more open-minded with ourselves as well, not just in the way we look at life, but with ourselves as well.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm getting some questions. One of our viewers is right now asking, how about the real estate sector? How do you see what will come next for the real estate sector? Is it a good investment? Shall we shy away from real estate? How do you see it?
For Turkey is a different case. For the world is a different case. In Turkey, well, we have to wait. It's not the first sector who will recover.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah. So it's going to take some time.
Mm-hmm.
And the office business, well, I think the nature of the office business will change, definitely. So nobody needs those square meters anymore. I'm so sad to say that, but it's true.
Yes, because
even I know some of the multinational companies says that, you know, I was on the 8th floor of a big building, so I just realized that I don't need those 4 floors anymore, which means some of the business will be killed, die. So maybe digital selling or digital marketing of the real estate will make some, you know, some difference in the market. But, you know, changing the houses or, you know, the appetite for buying new houses is not there yet. I think the second quarter of the next year, the market will recover somehow. The latest, but not now. It's going to take not 1 year, but at least 9 months to recover.
That is quite a long time if you think about it. 9 months, it seems short.
No, actually, 9 months is good. You know, 9 months is good. You know, so 9 months is good. I'm not saying that they're going to start to make money. I say they start to recover. They can start to make money even next month. But recovering the business is another case. You know, it's going to take 9 months.
Yes. How about, let's talk a little bit on tech, the tech world, because I mean, even right now, look at us, different places, we're connected. In my own business as well, I see that there's much more collaboration now. I'm able to reach more people than I've ever reached because, you know, we have Zoom, we have all these like ways of connecting, and collaboration has become easier. So definitely technology is going to change the way we lead our businesses or our social lives as well. So let's talk tech a little bit. And then there's another question on startups. From tech, I want to pass on to startups a little bit. How do you see the emergence of startups after the corona?
I can only answer this question with my own studies. First of all, the reality of the third millennium actually wasn't understood until this coronaviruses. I remember my previous 10 years, many times I underlined the importance of the value creation, but not on the human resources, but with the digital inclusion. So the reality of the third millennium is, first of all, creativity and the use of the technology, innovation, and know-how. Why I say that? Because the competition can only be made by value creation. But how you can create the value? In 1970s, all the research shows us that the fabrication operation, which means the producing something, all this operation has only 23% value on the price, not much. Today, this reduced to 11%. All the things that you do before the fabrication and after the fabrication actually counts as a value. Research, development, marketing, human resources, digital infrastructure, technical infrastructure. I mean, critical infrastructure, that's the most important thing. Of course, design.
And experiential design, yeah.
After fabrication, sales.
Yes.
Receivables, collection, marketing, advertising, fairs, logistics. All of this puts more value added on the price. So with the technology, with the digital inclusion, we can create a value. So in Turkey, or in the many emerging world, many parts of the emerging world, we make this mistake. We think that by producing zillions amounts of things will bring us somewhere which is called development. No, actually, it's not the case. This is growth.
Yes.
And there's big difference between growth and the development. And the development.
Wonderful. I'm glad you're talking about this. Yes.
Development can only come with justice, freedom, and education. So justice, freedom, and education give way to create more value with digital inclusion. With the digital inclusion, you hear everybody. Without digital inclusion, you're deaf, which means you only focus to your fabrication.
Do you think then the younger generation, because they're more tech savvy, will be able to create more value by designing these startups, new solutions that they can offer to the market? Do you think they're going to have a more of a chance, let's say, than the older generation that is still in the corporate mindset? How do you see that?
Yeah, in that sense, I was luckier than my father, and they were luckier than me, most probably, my son. So, of course, with more technology, we understand more. I remember a poem of Can Yücel, one of the famous poets of Turkey. He says, the longest distance is not between stars, not to Everest, not in the Indian Ocean. The longest distance is between two people who doesn't understand each other at all.
Oh, absolutely.
So with the digital inclusion, we start to understand. We just avoid the differences between us. So all these differences becomes a beautiful mosaic. That's how we create things. Because if you become homogeneous, which means if we think the same, we cannot create anything at all.
No.
So, and today the profit margins are so narrow that every little differences make, a lot of, what can I say, a decent size of profit in your life. So a little differences, a little innovation. I can give you an example. One iPhone XS, one middle-sized Louis Vuitton bag, and two carat bracelet has the same price. Would you believe it? Once upon a time, in our time, the iPhone or the phone was the competitor of another phone.
Yes.
A bag was the competitor of another bag, and the bracelet is the same. Today, every product is a competitor. So every brand likes to take the money in your pocket, from your pocket. So that's why a little difference will make actually a lot of difference. So this little difference can only come with free minds and a lot of technology. Without it, you can make no difference, you're gonna die, which means a growth crisis, and right after, of course, generated by a profit crisis, you just die. So that's why young generation actually manage well with the technology. They can hold their own, better than us, and they actually look more clearer than us. Because I myself, as being 50 years of age, I had 2 coups d'etat in my life, several economic crises, and crisis in my social life as well, just like divorces and stuff, and the kid. And as you see, my mind is poisoned.
Let's say you're more resilient. You're more experienced. Yes. You're more resilient.
Yes. Yeah, but I don't look to the things the way that they look.
Yes, they're more free-minded.
Okay,
yes,
they're more free-minded. So, as being a leader, business leader, what is my duty is create an orchestra where everybody feels equal. The violinist, the pianist, the timbale, everybody. Then everybody thinks that they are useful, and everybody put their best.
So in a way, closing the generation gap and having this collaboration, intergenerational collaboration is important too. I think, we have to be careful as well, I think, but when we're talking about the younger generation and they're open-minded and they're free-spirited and all of that, but they lack the experience of somebody like you, for instance, who have gone through a lot. So I think and nobody really talks about this a lot. Both have to come together and collaborate more, like an orchestra, like you say. It's not just about, I don't know if you agree, it's not just about saying, okay, younger generation is going to do much better because they're open-minded, they're tech savvy, and they'll move forward. But I think those of the younger generation who have used the experience of the older generation maybe will be able to take a step further into their success.
Actually,
I
you
don't
just
know. What do you think?
put it. Most of the people thinks that creating value is firing all the olders and hiring all the youngsters. That's not the case, actually.
No.
They have to change the philosophy of the company,
True.
not the ages. All ages has to. In my institution, I work with 4 different generations. Would you believe it? 4 different generations. But what I do is reconciliation.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So
Otherwise,
because there's a lot of age discrimination going on as well. There's like gender discrimination, there's age discrimination as well.
Yeah, or I do just like Napoleon did once upon a time. He says, I make war for better peace.
Right.
So
beautiful.
That is the case. If you fight for nothing, actually, you just ruin the company. So first of all, the philosophy is not profit. Profit is the mission, but the vision is the purpose. Why I am here, why we are here, why we're doing this thing. The second thing, hierarchies. Doesn't work anymore. We need networks.
Yes, networks.
I remember three years ago, a lady came along. I really liked her. I just want to hire. And she said, what are you going to put on my business card? I said, Queen of Scotland. Did you like it? I said, she was shocked. I said, we don't work like this here. I say, you have to do your job appropriately. You have to put an extra every month. So at the end of the day, you will see that everybody will remember with your name, not with your title. And it happened.
That's true.
She really liked the idea.
That's beautiful.
Now she's the best employee of my institution.
Lovely.
Because we know her not from her title, with the name.
Well,
this is the important. So
that is important. It's about the person. Yeah.
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 We the X generation, we are older than you and the all other Y generation, we like the control, I must admit, because they controlled us. So that is a habit. It's a hard habit to break. But actually, we have to empower the people, not control them. Empowering is the most important thing. If we empower the people and check them, trust them, but check them, that is the most beautiful thing that you can ever do as being a manager. Planning is good, but as I told you, life is not lived like planned. You live the life as it is. So that's why the experimentation is the most important. You have to do some experiments, some pilot projects, 10 pilot projects every year, and the youngsters will work with the experienced people. If 3 of this, for example, out of 10 will work, you're going to make a lot of value. So that is the important. And the last but not least, privacy. I say, why privacy? If you don't have an affair in a company, so you don't have to put in, privacy. Everybody has to know the turnover of the company, who are the procurers, where we are exporting, how much people are working, how many men, how many women, level of education, the age average. We all have to know this in transparency. So otherwise, we don't feel that we belong there. So all this actually creates a company identity. Then you feel yourself that you're really a member of the family and you belong there. So that is the case. That's why we create the self-sufficiency. That's why we are turning more resilient as being a family. Families are very resilient. Why? Because they are stick to each other, because they have philosophy over there. So every employee has to feel like they are the member of the family. There is no company that the boss is very happy and the employees are very unhappy. It doesn't exist.
Actually. No, it doesn't. Yeah.
So happiness doesn't mean that everybody else cheering up and dancing inside. No, they are happy that they are belonging to this family. They are a member, and a valuable member of the family. Most of them. most
So
of them.
sense of belonging. But then how about then if you're saying that there will be more freelancers in the future, how are they going to achieve that sense of belonging? Because they're not going to be part of a corporation,
Good
of a
question.
company. So how what's your suggestion to them?
As being a professor who just consecrated his life for education, I'm also teaching in many universities.
Yes.
Galatasaray University, Bosphorus University. Of course, I belong to Altınbaş University family, but when I go there, when I give my services there, when I see the teachers, my colleagues over there, I really feel myself in the family as well.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that you're a freelancer, that you don't feel that you belong to somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
For example, for Apple, for Huawei, for other companies, there are a lot of value-added services made by the freelancers, but still they feel inside. That is the beauty of the company. This is the skill of the company.
Yes.
There are people, they are outside of the circle. Maybe they are feel outside it, but it is the management skill that get them inside or make them feel that they are inside of the family as well. That is the beauty of the management. Everybody likes to feel in this family, even they are working for some other competitors as well.
So in a way, their clients for freelancers, their clients will be their family. Their clients will be where
procurers,
they will
family,
procurers, yeah.
everybody.
Yes, yes.
Because you
so
have
that network, whoever is your network, is your family.
And then, of course, the family members has to meet the quality standards of the family as well. So that's why you just form a family. The family has a philosophy. So everybody has to deploy their business in this philosophy, with this philosophy, through this philosophy.
Mm-hmm. So now, do you see that there's a difference in terms of how that is perceived between the West and the East? You just mentioned Huawei and the US. I want to enter a little bit into that. How do you see the whole US-China take, and where do you see it resolving? How do you see it resolving, if it will ever be resolved?
Well, I remember in my old days, in the beginning of the 2000, I was a Secretary General of Turkish Exporter Assembly, and many times I went to Washington, to the Cato Institute, WTO as well, the World Trade Organization, and I was complaining about the Chinese people because they were violating the trade rules. And the answer was, oh, come on, professor, you don't want them to be starving?
This was when? When was this?
In 2002, 2003.
Okay.
But I was shocked. I said that they are really violating the rules.
Okay.
They weren't so much complaining about the Chinese people. Why? Because the Chinese people at that time, they were always producing, textiles and low value-added products.
Right.
And it wasn't a threat because the Americans and the Western world were so proud that they are producing technology. They were in the high-tech side. Nowadays, China changed the philosophy. They said that instead of producing zillions cheap products, they turned to produce tech products, technological and digital products. Then they become a threat. So that's why today I like to say that to all these Westerns and the American institutions, oh, come on, you like that the Chinese will starve, So actually, it's a lot of hypocrisy in the way that they treat the business. But of course, in French, we say, la raison de plus fort est toujours la meilleure. The strongest actually rule the world. So today, the Americans are strong, but Chinese will go stronger, Chinese people, I'm sure. In the technology, in the how they manage the companies, actually, they are little by little adopting the universal rules. I'm not saying Western, universal. Which means,
for you, what is the difference between the two?
We had an American dream, and the American dream is a good dream for an entrepreneur. Why? Because they're isolating themselves as being the king or the emperor of the company, and the employees are actually sacrificing their whole life in the traffic jam, 3 hours or 4 hours to come to job and turn back. And they're working for what? They're asking the same question. It's an American nightmare, actually. Now I say, Huawei showed to the world that 99% of the stocks of the company can belong to the employees, and they can still work for profit, and nobody's are complaining about the conditions of the business, because everybody willingly working for the company, and the company belong to the people in the capitalist world, which is the Chinese dream is becoming superior to the American dream, which is not a dream for me, if you ask. So you don't have a freedom. So
Yes.
And the way that they resembles to each other, the leadership in the American side and the Chinese side sometimes resembles, which means there are so much layers, and you cannot pass those layers and push the companies to do the best thing. So I'm talking about from Nike to China Telecom, the same mentality. But Huawei is different. Why Huawei is different? Because Huawei made a collectivist idea or deployed the collectivist idea in the capitalist world. That's why United States hates Huawei, and it just Huawei turned to be just like a country. I mean, what the American hates mostly Middle Easterns and Huawei, something like that now.
It became kind of a symbol.
And the Latin Americans, the Middle Eastern people, and Huawei, which means Huawei is a big threat for the American dream. That's why China and American relationship now stuck to this point. If you know whether the Huawei will be I don't know, spin out, because they don't like that Huawei turns like a big nebula like that. They just push hard that Huawei will divide into 2 or 4, medium-sized companies. I don't know who's going to win, but the United States-China relationship actually will be more tense after this coronavirus. I'm so sure about that. But it's not gonna create a third world war. So don't worry about it.
No, I don't think so. But how is that going to affect the rest of the world? How is that going to affect our region?
Well, of course, badly. As United States, I mean, the king of the democratic world is keen to apply protectionist rules.
Yes.
And Turkey, Argentina, and Brazil, and everywhere in the world will apply the same rules. They said, look, I'm not doing that. I'm not alone. America is doing that. Everybody says the same thing. So I hate that this protectionism will kill the trade diplomacy. And when the trade diplomacy is killed, When there is no diplomacy, there is war. So we have to be aware of that. So the trade diplomacy is good for diplomacy, which means maintaining a good relationship, a beneficial relationship between 2 countries or many countries. I mean, a mutual platform. If you just try to erase this mutual platform, you will face a war. So that's it. If there is no benefit between people, what are you going to do about it?
So this can have a spillover effect, and it has to be handled very delicately.
Carefully.
Yes.
And delicately.
And how I'm curious. I love talking to you, and you're so knowledgeable. How do you see Europe? How do you see Europe's role in this whole power game? Let's say.
Well, I'm disappointed with Europe.
Okay.
And because maybe I had some over expectations about it. As being a European, like Turk, actually,
yes.
not Scandinavian.
I resonate with that. Yes.
I remember the phrase of the Jesus Christ when he was going to be crucified. He said that, "Forgive them, Father. They don't know what they're doing." Actually,
that is harsh.
Yes, this is the same case with Boris Johnson. The Brexit issue, nonsense. I think most of the Europeans forgot why they just formed this beautiful political project like European Union, because it is the longest period of time they didn't make a big war, and the leverage is euro, and they don't just remember that anymore. All the young politicians, they just argue themselves with the nationalistic ideas and stuff. Hey, listen, guys, you did this not to make a big war, and you just succeeded. Why are you just turning the game plan again? Why just, turning the cards again? So it was so perfectly good. And the Europe, I don't say that Europe will expand, that Turkey will be in. I don't care. But European Union idea was even good for Turkey, for Middle East. And that's because it was the last fortress of the modernism.
Yes.
It was the last fortress of the Enlightenment. It was the last fortress of democracy. It's the last fortress of freedom of will. Okay, not the America. My example has never been America, never been United States. My example was always Europe. But Europe actually failed in this idea. And now Europe cannot create a remedy, an accurate remedy for the problems of the world, even though they have the ability and the power and the knowledge to do it. They don't. So that's why Europe actually failed. But I hope this Brexit will not be preceded by, Spanish exit or French exit or Italian exit, which is possible actually.
Yes.
So if the whole European Union idea will collapse, I think Putin and Trump will be very happy, because they don't like that the Europe, show itself like one country, one big fortress of knowledge, science, or arts, or sports.
True.
They hate the idea. Trump and Putin, without talking to each other on this matter, I think they are in the same platform of thinking about Europe, which is killing me actually, which is hurting me a lot.
Let's
they
hope
also don't know what they're doing actually.
Yeah, I agree with you. Unfortunately, it's the cradle of enlightenment, and to see Europe crumble a little bit as it is doing now, it's heartbreaking, like you say. But I want to ask you, in terms of this post-COVID area, a lot of things are going to change, it's evident. I want you to maybe share with us, if you can, a best case scenario and a worst case scenario. According to you, what would be the best case scenario and what would be the worst case scenario?
I don't want to take your time with the worst case scenario, because the worst case scenario is the IMF scenario, which is the worst of the worst I ever seen in my entire life. I mean, for Turkey, they say 5% contraction in the economy. For United States, 3.5%. They're all awful. But I don't think that there's going to be that much awful. 2019, for most of the countries, was a bad year, very bad year actually. In the trade performance, the growth rates, inflation, unemployment, and stuff. I think 2020 can be defined as no year. We didn't live this.
No, I like that. No year. Yes.
No year. So this is the year that we performed like 2019. It may be a little less, which is awful actually, if you ask me, which is bad. But the IMF report says that we will be 5% worse than the last year, which is actually impossible. It's a killer. It's the end of the world. But I know why they're doing this. They like to be the doctors who say the worst thing first and the good thing right after. So, and nobody remembers the bad thing. They always remember the good thing. So maybe they are right to do
Lowering
so.
Expectations.
Yeah, that's it. But now they are doing the under expectation actually. For me, 2021 was a year. It will be a year of recovery, and all the expectations that we designed in the beginning of this year will be executed in 2022. So that's it. Maybe, yeah, please.
Please. So you see that there will be more growth in the coming years, 2021, 2022, both in our region and in the world. Do you see that growth coming into fruition? Or will we contract even more economically?
You like to hear a good definition. We just fell down in a well.
That's not very positive.
Yeah. We started to climb. We
Yes.
just find the strength to climb, to get over it. In 2022, we will see the light, which means we will be above the water.
Lovely.
It's not a positive thing, but better than being on the bottom of the water.
Of the well. Beautifully put, and beautiful timing as well. We just, our time is just up, and really it was a delight talking to you as always. Thank you for all your knowledge that you shared with us. Thank you for being you. Thank you, Emre.
Thank you for taking your time. Thank you.
All right.